Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So when it comes to the so-called racial competition, it's over. Why? The reason why is very simple. Think of a rocker or a rapper with no higher cause, a thug, okay, and they look at the world and they see all these middle class people who are trying to pretend that their cultures are decent when they're just exploiting the workforce with the governing class. And they know it. It's not a coincidence that when conservatives are poor, they quite often admit that their labor is being exploited. A lot of people in unions are conservatives because they know that their labor is being exploited. So when you see a situation where rockers justify things to themselves by saying, hey, the so-called normal people in society are basically all scum, and they're massacring people with stuff in the air and the food, and they're playing dumb about it, while the health secretary to some degree admits it, he just doesn't tell the truth about it completely in regards to what's going on because he doesn't want to be persecuted, lose his job, what have you. When you see that situation, you know that the people who are trying to take over, who come from a long line of people who have been bred to be evil, to go along with that situation, to create that situation, to seek to benefit from that situation. The foundation of that situation is wickedness and injustice. You know that you're in the top level of hell. That's what it is. There's no other way it could be. This is not a matter of, oh, Jesus comes back one day and saves people. I'm Jesus, maybe you don't believe that. But it's not a matter of that. It's a matter of right and wrong. We see in Matthew 5, it proves my point. A lot of people consider the Sermon on the Mount the greatest sermon of Christ. It's in Matthew 5. And he says, to his disciples afterwards, I believe it is, in Matthew 5, verse 20, he says, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees, you're not going to go to heaven. You think that rockers are righteous? Middle class people who suffer from white and token minority denial are righteous? No. Do you think that the governing class, the rich, do you think that the rich are magically righteous when the proverb says that the rich are only wise in their own eyes, and one who is poor and discerning sees how deluded they are? So obviously they're not righteous. You look at the churches. Does the spirit stick out as righteous? No. It's kind of propaganda-ish. It's like the white light in a Hollywood movie or on a stage. The Broadway show Cats. It's like a white light and there's smoke and smoking mirrors, right? Babylon Mystery and Mist. They're not righteous. They're just putting on a show. And what's more important? For you to slip into a state of mind that's induced by mass murdering serial killers who want you to be attached to the same sickness they're attached to, their generational failure, their manifest destiny, their continentalism, their expansionism, their nation building, or to be in reality and to do what is actually right. Because there's no logical reason to keep reproducing physical children. There is no racial competition. The die is cast. Because there's no way to be moral in the future after my flesh dies. There's no racial competition. The die is cast because of tech, breeding, cheating, and generational ill-gotten gains. The end of all sane paths forward after my flesh dies is upon the human race. So when you look at the situation, ask yourself, should you take on a fanatic, lunatic, weirdo philosophy? Okay, and I'm not talking about the top martial arts ever possible who's sabotaged. It might look strange at times, but people who are actually weird, who have no higher cause, who are not sabotaged to any significant degree other than the average sabotage of the African American. The average American. Should you take on the failed philosophy of mainstream white culture? Well, what happens when people do? The Klan, feudal Europe, Rome, Greece, Nazi Germany. How many examples do you need? America today, like all Western nations, is a straightforward example of failed mainstream white culture. Then you have rockers and goths and emos and all these people, these whitewashed people, K-pop, fraternities who are responding to the mainstream culture and in their own way helping to propound it to their extreme disgrace. And the reason why they're responding by self-harm and substance abuse, adding $800 billion or so of burden on the healthcare system, adding to inflation, it's because white culture has failed. And when the top martial artists ever possible is trying to debate them about that, and they refuse to debate them, it's a clear-cut sign that I'm right. When they resort to blaming immigrants, and they point to criminals in the ghetto instead of comparing models for society. When they historically relied on saying black people need to get a job when they have a 93% employment rate. And when you consider their obstacles, it would be amazing if they had a 50% employment rate, but they have a 93%. Think about that. It is insane for people not to see that the problem is in their mainstream white cultural system. Okay, and the white Jew and LGBT people and token minorities, especially Asians, okay, are upholding that system and trying to benefit from it unfairly. To not understand that is crazy. And of course, when I say white Jew, LGBT, Asians, it's according to their deeds on a spectrum. If there's an Asian somewhere, somehow, who's scrambling with all their heart to be outside the system as uncontrolled opposition, okay, and they're an exception to some degree. If they obey God through me, then they're the exception. But they're not doing that. And neither is anyone else. It's just me. I'm the only one doing what is exactly right. The only one who's truly outside of the system. Because when we look at the mark of the beast, now write this down. It says it's the number of a man, or humanity's number, That means your number. Whether or not you're following them, you are cheating me as an individual. Therefore, you've accepted the mark of being a mere beast and not having the spirit of righteousness conveyed because you're doing the right thing by not cheating the most righteous person that ever lived out of his right to lead. Mr. Right, in his right mind, doing the right thing, on the right path, who's righteous and whose leadership is right for you. And if you're an attractive female who's not in my family, who as a mate would be right for you.